Hi Des, it's 1st of February, and if river pike are our target this month, what should we use? Should we use a roving or a static approach?
That's a very difficult one, a very, very difficult one. And it's like, that's one of the skills. Do I move pegs or do I stay? You know, if you know the water and you know a water holds, a swim holds a big fish, and you know it holds a number of big fish, then, I wouldn't want to be roaming away from that peg at the time. Say, if you know that the best time is between 11 and 1, it's no good roaming, it's no good being stuck in one of the best pegs at 9 o'clock in the morning and then back on it at 3 o'clock and you've missed the feeding spell. If you know the feeding spell on the river, make sure you're sitting in the best peg at the best time. Don't roam round in pegs and so you're stuck in the best time in a peg that you're trying a new peg. Make sure you're sitting in a good peg at the right time of the day. You're playing the percentage game. It might not be a peg but it might be a peg that you think, that's going to produce. I've got a feeling that's going to produce. Well, make sure you're in that peg at the time that you think it's going to produce. Don't be stuck in a shallow stretch which you ain't sure about when you know there's a deep hole that could hold, the waters. Perhaps it might be up, and there's a bit of a back eddy, and you think, okay, that's a pike could be in there. Make sure you're on that at the right time. So yes, I will roam, and I will rather than static. But I tell you what, I'm always static in the right peg at the right time. That's what I'm good at. I always make sure I'm sitting in the right peg at the right time, not the wrong peg at the right time.
And bait-wise, what's your preference?
Bait-wise would have to be live baits. Definitely a live bait. That's what they eat. But some rivers sort of produce better on dead baits than others, especially sea baits. They say the Severn doesn't produce on sea baits. Well, it does. But the Y, if you're fishing the likes of the Y, my God, sort of sardines, herrings, mackerels, all sorts of sea baits work really well, and I found them to work a lot better than on the Severn. I like to use a fresh coarse dead. If I can, I'd rather catch the bait, and even if I'm using dead bait, and that's kill it, and use a fresh dead rather than a frozen dead. That's the same with any of my fishing, whether it be eel fishing or whatever. The fresher the better. And that's basically, I think, what it is, whether it's dead bait or live bait. What you've got to make sure is you're sitting in the right spot. And just remember one thing: when you're on a river, don't always keep fishing under trees, in sort of eddies. A lot of the times, especially when they're feeding, you're seeing fry scattering, and pike are obviously feeding that day. Don't be frightened to get out in the flow. Don't be frightened to get out into shallow water and fast water, because those pike, they'll be sitting there, but when they feed, if the chub and the dace and the grayling or whatever they're feeding on is out in the main water, that's where they will go and they will hunt. And many's the time I've had decent fish on the Y and on the Severn, straight in the middle of the river, with a ledger live bait or a ledger dead bait straight in the middle of the river. Not every pike is lying under a tree in a deep hole underneath. Most of the pike are caught there because that's where 99% of the baits are always put.